Well, I want to thank everyone who's here um, for this latest Letters from SCUA. And we are reading 8 letters from Sarah H. Terrell, who was here in the early 1940s, to her fiance, Lloyd Jeffcoat. They were both from Burlington. And I'm going to get started. We are recording, and um, I'm going to ask Sean, who is the person who is the processor, the receiver, the keeper of the letters, to talk a little bit about where they came from.
All
So,
right.
Sean.
So thank you. So the letters were a surprise donation that we received back in November, I believe. Uh, a box came in the third floor, was delivered to us. It said to SCUA with no specific person. So I took the box, opened it up, and was surprised to find over 400 letters that we're going to discuss some of them right now. From Sarah to her fiance Lloyd, and it was a treasure trove. Just every day the letters were like a soap opera. You'd read the one letter, then you'd open another one, and it'd be the next day, and her life was unfolding and such. So it became a great kind of escape for me to read through them and sort of go back to the 1940s and see how life was like, and just watch romance grow at the UNCG, or what was Women's College and is now UNCG. Um, but again, we didn't. The donation came from someone in Charlotte, or I forget exactly. I think it was Charlotte. She just said they were in her closet, that she didn't think they needed to be in her closet. They deserved to be in a museum or an archive or somewhere else. So she sent them to us and said, "You don't need a reply." I wrote thank you to her anyway, but she said we just wanted them gone and do what you want with them and have at it. So it was a very fortunate gift that we received, and it was just been a great way to document what life was like in the 1940s, early 40s, and during World War II with a student who was on campus. And so a lot of the things that she does discuss relates to her life as a student. And she was, what, 19, 20 years old at the time. So anyway, but just a really great random donation that we're just fortunate to have. And we're going to read a little bit of it to you now.
Thank you, Sean. All right, so here she is. Here's our heroine. So said she was from Burlington, as was her fiance. He was actually 8 years older than she was, so I'd like a little bit more backstory, but we did not get that. So you see that she got a degree in secretarial administration, which was a major here, and she played basketball, which will come up. So what is this secretarial administration? So I went back to the online catalog, or not online, the bulletin, the you know course catalog essentially. And essentially, you can get a bachelor. You could have gotten a Bachelor of Science, essentially to having skills as secretaries and general office clerks. So you took some liberal arts, some basic courses in economics, and then classes such as these: elementary typewriting, shorthand, duplicating machines, which fascinate me, gelatin fluid process, and stencil duplicators. So we might have to go back to this if our SCUA copiers continue to malfunction. So I wish I could have had that class. Maybe we have it in the archives, but the syllabus was. So transcription, filing, business correspondence, things like that. So she talks a lot about her classes in here. So again, 1940s during World War II. I just find it interesting, besides the intensity of her feelings for Lloyd, you know, getting a clue of what life was like in the dorm, and during World War II, where you had soldiers around at the big Army Air Force Center in Greensboro, and restrictions on gas and shoes and things like that. So I don't think she's in this photo, but this is what it would have looked like when she left the dorm.
Well, she did hate her picture too. I think you didn't mention that fact that
That is true.
she does
That
hate,
is true.
and we find through the letters again. She wrote a letter almost every day of the last 3 years till she left college, And she despised taking photographs, and she thought it was the stupidest thing in the world, but she still did it. So we probably only had those two photos of her in existence.
Yeah, and this is from her junior yearbook. She really hated the one in her senior yearbook. So I don't I don't know what to do. This is what we had. Okay, so a little bit of Burlington. I don't know if you all are familiar with H. Lee Waters. He was a North Carolina filmmaker who had this brilliant idea in the 1930s just to go around different towns and cities in North Carolina and just film, as you see here, what the daily comings and goings. This is downtown. They're in this Burlington. I think this was 1939. Also had some guys around the factory, but yeah, and then he would actually show them at the movie theaters, and people would come pay to see themselves on film because why not? So anyway, well played, H. Plea Waters, and I don't think she's in this either. But this is what her and Lloyd's life would have been in Burlington. Okay, that's fascinating. Huh. How does one Whoa, okay. Not quite sure what just happened there, but we're going to wow, I don't know how there we go. Okay. Whew. All right, so we move on to Lloyd. So Sarah's in college, and Lloyd, 8 years her senior, was working at a shipyard in Newport News, Virginia. And she would go home on weekends, and he would come home on weekends, and she would visit him on weekends. It was very fraught. And in her letter, she also mentions a lot. I mean, again, this is World War II. There's a lot of rationing. So gasoline was key. There were no new tires, no new cars. So car issues came up. And she does, I guess you can't yell at somebody in letters, caution him, scold him. There's the word I want for driving too fast. So in 2026, it would take a little over 3.5 hours to get there. God knows how long it would take to go back and forth in 1942, 43. So there he was. And one thing that comes up in his letters are a lot. I mean, so you had a lot of men being drafted. So it's a concern of whether or not he was going to get drafted or get a deferment. And as you can see, imagine shipbuilding was considered an essential industry. So he was not drafted, but family members were in the military, and they talk about that in the letters. All right, so some of the major themes. We only have 8 letters. Um, she wrote every single day and was not pleased when he did not write every single day. Another fun thing is her roommates would write notes at the end of her letters. They're pretty funny, even if we didn't quite understand it. They seem to always have a cold, both of them. Everybody has a cold. So she does also admonitions about him drinking alcohol, besides driving so fast, and also don't smoke. Although she sort of did all of the above, but perhaps not to the extent that he did. Now, she doesn't even want to be at school, but her mother wants her to graduate. So she would love to marry him today, but she doesn't want to disappoint her mother. She addresses him as darling a lot, unless she's annoyed, and then his name comes up. Her nickname was Sabby, which comes up. So the last letter we have from her is May 25th, 1943. And here's a spoiler that they did get married on June 10th, 1943, but we don't quite know what happened between the 25th and June 10th. So,
Well, she graduated college. That was one thing. So she did finish college.
right.
She was in the midst of all the wedding planning, which again, if you read the letters, she married him at I think what 21, 22. So she's a pretty young bride anyway, but it was normal for the time. But she was madly in love, and so she's doing all this wedding planning. And there's part of the letter that she's like, "Aren't you jealous that you're missing out on all this fun that you could be involved with by picking the wedding dresses and the church and the flowers?" And she also disagreed a lot with her parents about flowers, and so we don't have a lot of letters because once she was with him, she stopped writing to him because she started to live with him. So sadly, the letters kind of trail off once they get married and they live together. That she's not writing to him every day.
Right. And they did move back to Burlington. Um, and and they had one daughter, but that is kind of all we know about Miss Terrell. Let's see, any other major
We should probably
themes?
just read some of the letters to get a sense
Uh,
of what she's like.
oh, fair enough, Sean. Okay, so we do have 8 letters. This we're all gonna read a couple here, just to give you a little context on this letter. She talks about a class she went to, or her retailing class. So this actually was a course about the fundamental principles of retail store management, and Miss Sievers was the instructor. Please write that down. Okay, I'm going to read the first letter. So it is Monday night, November 18th, 1941. Dearest Lloyd, I think I must be losing my mind. I just got out of my bed to get some stationery to write you a letter, and I walked around the room, got back into bed, and forgot to get the stationery. Yes, and I'm in bed trying to get rid of the cold you gave me. Gosh, Mary Jane is putting on a striptease act. I never thought it of her. We have a darned old house meeting at 11 p.m. tonight, so I'll have to get up again so I can't go to sleep. This afternoon, our retailing class went uptown to go through a department store to see how everything was done. We were in the stock rooms mostly. Anyhow, Jean and I got tired of wandering around, so when the teacher looked the other way, we jumped into the elevator and left. We thought we were pretty smart at the time, but now I don't think so because the teacher turned around and asked the girls where we were. I wonder what will happen when we go to class next time. We never do find out. She doesn't bring it up again. So I bought some shoes today. This is Sarah, not me. I have not bought any shoes today. They are good ones for stepping on people's toes. Come on home and I'll try them out on you. Mary Jane just said you had her sympathy because you were up there without me, but she also said that you were probably a lot better off without me. She may be right, but in just a minute I'm going to knock her out of her bed. Yes, she's nursing a cold too. Have you been kissing her? I want to see you so darn bad. I don't see how in the world I can stand waiting 3 weeks. I told Mother yesterday that I was going to Newport News on December 6th, but she didn't say anything. Guess I'll have to talk to her about it a little bit more. Will you be glad to see me? I bet something happens so we won't get to come. If it does, I'll just die. I certainly am being pessimistic. Don't you think so? Really, Lloyd, I would give anything in the world if I could see you. Do you get tired of hearing me say so? My shorthand book is staring at me because it wants to be studied. Good night, darling. I love you, Sabby. And Mary Landon, Jean says hello to you.
All right, so I have the next letter. So if you look at the date, obviously that is 2 days after the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. So for the context, this is following up after that event. So December 9th, 1941, Monday night. Dearest Lloyd, isn't this war terrible? We've been listening to the radio all day. Did you hear the president's speech? We just heard that there was a big explosion and fire in the Norfolk shipyard today. I hope nothing like that happens in Newport News. Have you heard yet if you're going to be drafted? Please let me know as soon as you find out. You should see me. I'm knitting a sweater for the Red Cross. Would you like for me to knit you one sometime? Mother just came in. She and Pop came up here shopping. She says to tell you hello. I have to write a darn old analysis of myself and how my personality will be fitted for marriage according to some tests I took in psychology. According to those, I'm going to be one horrible person to get along with. I'm warning you, you don't still want to be a free man? Mary Jane says to tell you hello and that she's still waiting. Me too. May I be at the end of the line? She just turned your picture to the wall because you won't shut your eyes. I really must study now because I sure have a lot to do. How is your cold? No worse, I hope. Please write to me soon and often. Love you, darling, more than anything in the world. Your Sabi. And if you know too, just a side note, her everything that she writes for the most part is in cursive. So fortunately, her cursive is pretty easy and legible
Hmm.
to read. She does at some point type letters because she's in a typing class, and I don't know if we talk about. We have one letter where she's writing. She's like, I should be doing the assignment, but I don't want to, and I don't care. So I'm using my typing to just type you a letter, and she goes on to write him a 2-page letter in class on the typewriter. But for the most part, all of her letters are in cursive, so If you can't read cursive, I'm sorry. That is
That's why we're reading it to you.
right. But anyway, so fortunately, her cursive is very legible, and I didn't have a lot of trouble going through reading the letters as opposed to some other correspondence we have. Um, I'm also reading Civil War letters right now, and Civil War letters are ridiculously hard to read sometimes because of cursive. That's a side note. No, so the hard part is technically all the letters that we have are the letters that he saved from her. And so it's weird that it's called his collection because he's the one who actually got the letters, even though she's the main character because she's the one who writes all the letters. So we unfortunately have no. I mean, fortunately, all her letters are very detailed, so we have to insinuate some responses. I mean, and I wish we had her side. I mean, his side, because as you read through, sometimes that she'll respond to things like, "What was that, Lloyd?" And she'll get really upset about something that he said, and she's writing in response to what he wrote to her as part of the relationship. So we don't know what he said. We're just insinuating things, and occasionally she'll quote like, "When you told me this, quote, what did you mean by that?" So sadly, we don't have a back and forth dialogue. We just have her side. And that I bet that is her side is like 340 letters. So she gives a really great description of everything, but sadly, we don't know what he wrote to her. She didn't save his letters, which probably weren't as many as she wrote. But
Well,
anyway,
we don't know that. I mean, that's a problem with. She might have saved them, but we don't
well,
know
again,
what
it's a
she
free
wrote.
donation. I don't know. We haven't followed up
Right.
if her daughter would have had stuff. But sorry, yeah. To your question, I'm saying is sadly we don't have a back and forth.
Right. And
Um,
that's a common issue in archives. Usually, you don't get both sides.
yes.
Okay, we're on to 1942. Stacy.
Okay. January 21st, 1942, Tuesday night. Dear Lloyd, I feel like I've been drugged through hell and backward. We played basketball last night. Yes, my sweet, we won 22-19. I'm so damn sore today, I could die. Somebody hit me in the nose, and the darn thing bled the whole second half of the game. They stuffed paper in my mouth because somebody said that would stop it, but it was still bleeding last night when I went to bed. We play again on Thursday night. Two of our best players got hurt last night, so they won't be able to play. Heaven help us. Oh, I forgot to tell you, I knocked out a girl cold. She jumped after the ball and her head hit my head and she fell and landed on the floor on her head. It almost scared me to death. She came to in about 3 minutes. See how mean I am? You better watch out. Later, we had a mass meeting tonight, and that's where I have been writing, but I'm back now ready to study shorthand and for the big test. Please pray for me. I'll, I'm all set to study. I'm sitting here in my house coat and slippers, cigarette in my hand, Coca-Cola on the table, pretty records on our radio. Now, if I could only go to bed. I didn't hear from you today, so you are in the dog house. I better hear from you tomorrow, or I won't come to see you. I believe I'll marry you in 2 weeks. Betty said she certainly did appreciate your message and she can hardly wait to collect in person. Does Sandra Lee miss her Aunt Sarah? She is the sweetest little thing. She reminds me of a big doll. Does her Uncle Lloyd miss me? I miss him terribly. Why don't you give her back my heart so I can live a normal life? Why don't you give me back my heart so that I can live a normal life? This kind of life isn't so much fun. Really, I must study and get smart. Do you realize that 2 weeks from tonight I might be with you? Do you really want me to come up there? Will Reba and Glenn approve? Night, sweetheart. I love you, Sarah.
So yeah, Reba and Glenn are his parents, and son Sandra Lee, who she talks about earlier when she was just born as an ugly baby, but apparently she's gotten cuter as the weeks go by, and that is Lloyd's niece. And another thing about basketball, I had this idea that, girly basketball, you couldn't dribble, you couldn't do this. So but wow, there's, college games today that don't seem to have as many injuries. So she talks about how she knocked a girl out cold, and later on, she gets knocked out for 5 minutes. So, I don't recommend playing basketball at WC in the early 40s. All right, here, Kathleen is going to read. She is not pleased with her family, and I added a copy of the envelope because there was a thing called special delivery. So their mail was key. I mean, as I said, she wrote every single day, and she was displeased when he did not write every single day. The guy was working in a shipyard, but doesn't matter.
And that
So,
was, sorry about Beth Ham, but one nice thing with this, again, lucky to get this collection, but one of the key things with the collection was that he saved the envelopes. As you see a lot of times on the correspondence, they didn't put any dates. So you would just put like Monday afternoon, Thursday night. Of course, they're understanding it because they're getting it in real time. But the great part was all the correspondence had the envelopes attached to it, and so the post date on the envelopes was really what helped me organize the the order of the letters. Because without the envelopes, you it would have been much more challenging to decipher like when did this event occur. Okay, we're putting this together, putting that together. So again, good credit to Lloyd. He saved everything. But yeah, having the envelopes with all the postmark is really what keyed this in because without it, they don't ever put dates on their letters. They just say Monday, Tuesday, Saturday. So
right. And so special delivery, if you paid an extra 13 cents, when the letter got to, for example, Greensboro, some person would be immediately deployed to deliver the letter. So that was impressive. Also, if you notice, this is pre-zip codes. So it's the little things that fascinate me, which is why I'm upstairs. So Kathleen, please read us the letter from a very upset Sarah.
Yes, so this is about a week after Stacy's letter, and she's been thwarted about going to Newport News by her father, she is planning on never forgiving. So she says, Thursday afternoon, dear Lloyd, Mother just came up here to inform me that Daddy said I positively could not go to Newport News. She has tried her best to make him change his mind, and he still says no, so I can't come. I've cried and I'm still crying. I feel like going against his wishes and never coming back into this part of the country. I won't even trust myself to tell you what I think of my daddy, but she has slashed out and put father because I might regret later what I say now. Mother asked me to please come home, and I told her to tell him that I would stay out in the street before I would come home, and I mean it. I hope she tells him exactly everything I told her to, and I hope he will be so unhappy knowing the way I feel about him that he will regret it for the rest of his life. I never want to do anything as bad in my life as I want to come up there to see you. I hope you won't be as disappointed as I am. You couldn't possibly be as miserable as I am now. I've never been more unhappy in my life. You can just write to me up here at WC all next week because I'll be damned if I'll ever go home again unless it's absolutely necessary. It's times like these now when I'd marry you without waiting to finish school. Why aren't you ever around? I love you, Lloyd, and nobody else. Sarah. P.S. Have you got a telephone yet so I can call you?
Good job, Kathleen. So, okay, we're on to May 25th. Don't really have anything to add to that. So, Saturday night, dearest Lloyd, sure was glad to hear from you today. Thought I was forgotten. I guess you aren't the only one that can have a blackout. We had one the night before last, but not on purpose. We had such a storm that the lights went out. I was taking a bath, so I did not enjoy that blackout. I enjoyed the one in Newport News. My sunburn and blisters are well now. I don't know whether you should be here to massage me or not. I'm not quite sure that you can be trusted. I hurt my back yesterday playing tennis. I swung too hard and yanked something loose. You could rub my back if you were here. I feel like I'm 100 years old today. Honest, I feel like hell. No, I won't be glad when school is out because then I'll have to go home and stay by myself, and I'm quite sure I will go mad. I just wish my exams were over, and then I wouldn't mind staying up here. Will you start more classes when you finish next week? Another one of my friends has given up her freedom for a man. She came in last night with a diamond. It's Pinky, Betty's roommate. Everybody's mad at her because we all know she doesn't love the boy. I don't see how in the world she can treat him like that. Darling, it's been 2 weeks since we've been together. To me, it seems like an eternity. You have no idea how lonesome I am for you. Wish I were up there with you tonight. I need to be kissed. I am out of practice. So the letter now goes to Sunday night. Hello again. It seems that Mary Lane forgot to mail the letter this morning, so now you won't get one tomorrow. I've been in bed all day. I'm so sick I think I'm going to die, and scared I'm not. We certainly have had some excitement around here last night and today. About 3 weeks ago, a girl came in drunk, so they expelled her. She came back last week on probation. Last night at 1:30, we had a campus check because she was missing. The last time she got in trouble, she tried to commit suicide by jumping off the top of the dorm and again by trying to drown herself. They were afraid that she had really succeeded this time, so they searched all the buildings to find out if she had hung herself, and the police dug the lake to find her body. Well, anyway, just a few minutes ago, a soldier called up to tell her roommate that she would be in tonight. She left here last night at 11 and spent the night in a hotel with the soldier. Nice girl, don't you think? She may come back tonight, but I bet anything she doesn't stay long. They will send her home so fast she won't know what happened. I'm certainly glad I'm not in her shoes. Darling, I'm still so lonesome for you. I can't stand being away from you much longer. Being in love certainly does cause a lot of unhappiness as well as happiness, doesn't it? Anyway, I think you're worth it, and that compliment will cost you 10 cents. I have to study some more now. Lloyd, darling, I love you. Sarah.
So just a side note, so I'm looking at Thomas here, and that right, there's so much drama, and again, there's like 400 letters, so we can't read all of them to you, but I read all of them, and Bethany has read most of them. But so after this one in 42, because I kept track of what she would write in the next letters, apparently she gets in a lot of relationship trouble. So I knew going into the ending that she does get married, but if you're reading the letters as she went along, you wouldn't know that for sure, because at some point she gets into a fight with Lloyd, because Lloyd isn't the greatest communicator. He doesn't write to her as much. So there's a letter that she calls him an ass because he wasn't writing to her as much. And then she writes, my mind is full of doubt. She's still upset of how she's supposed to know that it was supposed to be a joke when he writes, you see how I feel about the situation, don't you? So she gets mad at him a lot, and I wish we had what he wrote to her. We can only assume that what he wrote to her wasn't funny in her mind because she was very stressed out. And then I'll just read one more quote to Emily that says, I have a damn good idea that someone else is trying to ruin our lives and make us just as miserable as she is. So help me. If I ever get the chance, I'm going to knock her teeth down her throat. Just to give you a sense, Sarah doesn't take shit from people. And she's very clear about that. Loves Lloyd. She's not, she's kind of feisty and very much willing to stand her ground. So anyway, that letter I just read to you quickly, and the quote was 2 weeks or a couple days after the one that Bethany had just written. So again, these are wonderful letters. So much drama that goes on. And again, it's like teenage years. I mean, these are today that would have been a text message sent wrong, and you read the text message going, well, what do you mean by that, huh? And he said, well, it wasn't a joke. Well, it wasn't a joke to me, except these are letters that are taking weeks or days to exchange across the communication spectrum. So it is just really kind of fascinating to see that even back then in the 40s, relationships still had a lot of similarities of miscommunication and a lot of challenges and kind of thing. So
Yeah, the name of the file of this PowerPoint is Sarah Takes No Guff on my computer. So anyway, all right, so we're up to February 17th, 1943, and she's happy. So Kathleen.
Yeah, she's in a much better mood on Tuesday night. And so she starts out with, my darling, I'm so happy I could sing and shout. Life is so wonderful. I'm the luckiest girl in the world. Whoopee! This all boils down to a number of things. So she's going to count it for him. First, I was sitting here studying this afternoon, and the maid came in and brought me a box from the florist, and there were 24 of the most beautiful camellias, pink, I have ever seen. Gosh, I haven't been so thrilled in many a moon. Then Betty came in and brought me my report card. I made an A on business correspondence, B on law, B on machines, B on political science, and C on shorthand. All this means that my name gets put on the dean's list, and the dean's list means that I get unlimited cuts in all my classes. See what I mean? Isn't it wonderful, darling? Then came your long awaited four letter and the chewing gum. Gee, all I need to make everything perfect is to see you. Darling, how did you break your glasses this time? I think you had better buy some horn-rimmed ones, and then you wouldn't break them so much. I was reading your letter, and suddenly one of the girls in here started screaming. I turned around, and there she was standing behind me. It seems that she had glanced over my shoulder, not meaning to look, and saw the way you signed your letter, my darling wife and your husband. I almost batted her head in. She is Pinky's little sister, and she's a freshman, so you can't expect anything from a freshman. Gee, it would be wonderful to be a senior, or it is wonderful to be a senior. I saw in the paper the other day that the deferments were going to be terribly hard to get from now on. Do you still think you have a chance? I wish we knew now. It would be so wonderful if you do get one, but if you don't, we'll just have to make the best of things. Darling, Night and Day is playing on the radio. I remember long years ago when you used to sing it to me. One reason I'm glad that we're getting married is because then you will be able to be happy, I hope, and then you will sing to me again. I do hope that you will like to sing to me because I do love to hear you sing so terribly much. Darling, I really must go to work. I love you so much. I can hardly stand it. Night, sweet, your own Sarah.
So yes, besides the flowers and the gum, he also sends her occasionally exploding matches, which she loves.
She loves these a lot. I think she's a very practical joker with her roommates as well. So again, with the 40s, women's college was not coeducational, so there was a lot of camaraderie between women in the dorms, and they would play jokes on each other often that we've written about, that she wrote about, kind of thing. She talks about one time she went to take a bath and the women took her clothes and she had to run back to the dorm, and shenanigans and hijinks go on. But
well, I always want to know, like, he obviously sent her the chewing gum, but who sent her the pink flowers?
I assume that was him.
I'm hoping it was him.
Yeah,
she doesn't mention that. She thanks him for the chewing gum in his letter, but not the flowers. So I would definitely be going for whoever sent me the flowers and ditch the guy that sent me the gum. But okay, yeah.
Anyway, other stuff. Again, so I don't know what the next letter is, but there was one thing I pulled up quotes. I had it written. It's a 55-page document that I have all the quotes, but one of the things that she did write was the greatest cause for a divorce is a wedding, because she's writing him and wanting to get him. She's like, I need the list of wedding guests. I need to know all this stuff. And I wrote here, Lloyd sucks at responding to her questions because he won't. Whenever he replies to her, he doesn't answer the questions, and she's like, you didn't answer this question. I need to know this. So she'll rewrite it again in the next letter. And I assume at some point he may respond, but she gets real frustrated with him because he doesn't. I want to say typical, but he doesn't seem as invested about planning this wedding as she is. He's excited for it, but not near like her excitement to do that. So.
But he dare not say anything because she'll clobber him.
Yes.
She's a bit rough. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Again, you have this, have this sense of. Okay, so penultimate letter. She talks about her marriage course, which actually was a sociology 335 course, which is a study in the practical problems of courtship and marriage with an emphasis on personal relationships. I don't quite know what other emphasis there was, but I'm just reading from the catalog. And she also talks about the junior shop, which I, who do women in the military, am fascinated, when I get a chance to learn campus history. This was a shop set up by the junior class in the college. It started in 1913, and it raised money to support the junior class's annual banquet and dance. And it started with the sale of soup and hot chocolate and sandwiches in a small basement kitchenette in the Curry building. This is all from a Spartan story written by Aaron, so you can look it up if you want to learn a little bit more. So in 1922, the President Julius Faust allowed them to actually open a formal store, and it went on for years, and they sold items like snacks and camera film, hairnets, postcards, memory books, and college rings. So over the years, that continued to grow. In 1931, they installed tables and chairs and began selling sandwiches and cold drinks. So again, this is the junior class students running this. And they were doing so great that they were making about $12,000 a year, which is a lot more. And the room also, tended to exceed fire code regulations. And Walter Clinton Jackson decided in 1945 they were making too much money, so Women's College took over the shop. So, okay, Stacy, please.
All right. She doesn't threaten violence or hit anyone. So that's right. April 20th, 1943, Monday afternoon. My darling, I've just been asleep and now I'm eating an ice cream cone. What makes me so sleepy? Well, I went over for a conference with my marriage teacher. She talked to me about my term paper and told me to write on how I could furnish an apartment and how much everything would cost. So now I have to make a list of everything that has to go into an apartment, and then I go uptown and find out how much it costs. She gave me her best wishes on our marriage, and she said, "Congratulations to you." Boy, have I been kidded all day. All the girls said something to me, and this morning I was at the junior shop drinking a Coke, and somebody yelled, "Miss Farrell," and I turned around. There sat my freshman Spanish teacher. She yelled, "I saw your picture in the paper. Aren't you excited? He must be a fine man." Well, everyone in there, at least 100 girls, all turned around to see who she was talking to. I almost went under the table. Then I went to the library, and there, right in the middle of the bulletin board, was my picture. This is all so exciting and wonderful that I can hardly believe it. I have to go over and have an x-ray this afternoon. They give all the seniors one before they graduate. I hope I won't have to look at another doctor for 50 years. Honey, I have my red posy sitting right here next to your picture so I can look at you both all the time. Lloyd, did you ask Wilbur yet to be in the wedding? I was going to be so smart and study for my test last night, but I went to sleep instead. I woke up sometime in the middle of the night and turned off the light. I was going to get up at 7:30 and study this morning, but I turned off the alarm and woke up at 9:30. I never did get to any studying done. I really believe I'm going crazy. Darn it, it's still raining. We had to swim to class today. I'll bet it rains June 10th and gets me all wet. Lloyd, my darling, last weekend was just heavenly. Thank goodness it won't be long until we can be together for more than a weekend. Just 52 more days. Darling, are you as happy about everything as I am? I can hardly wait to go live with you. Darling, I must get ready for supper now. I love you so terribly much, Sarah.
One thing I forgot to mention about this letter is she put this picture is referencing, she put her engagement or her engagement announcement and photo in a Burlington newspaper. So that's how everyone knows. And this whole idea of like why all the seniors had to get x-rays. I happen to know that the Duke Women's College, these women had to get photos taken for their posture. And I know that there's a scandal in Harvard that they had photos of all the male students as being Harvard, so that's who the students would be, naked. And, someone had the files of that. That was uncomfortable for everyone. So I'm not quite sure what an x-ray would have done, but they all had them, so more radiation. Hurrah.
I did Charlie's quote. There was, again, the 40s, they had to get a doctor medical exam before the marriage license would be approved because she asked him several times, "Have you done this in Virginia?" And he had to get the marriage license for North Carolina, but I guess he could take the medical exam that he gets in Virginia to apply it for the North Carolina one.
And what was the medical exam about, Sean? There's only one thing we worry about.
Eugenics, probably? I'm not quite sure.
No,
Yes,
syphilis. It's all about a syphilis.
Okay, then syphilis. Then thank you for that. So there's why they had the medical exams. We want that. But yes, medical. I don't know why. I couldn't figure out the x-rays either. I had a question mark as well when I was trying to go through why. But again, the great part about the history is these letters kind of give you insight to things that I wasn't aware of.
Okay, and our last letter is May 7th, 1943.
That's
Sean?
me. So again, she is going to get married here in June. We already took the answer to that. But so we're getting near the end. She's getting ready to graduate. So she's in a great state because she is almost done with this place.
Oh, yeah, sorry. One other thing. I apologize. So she talks about the public relations, and this was a thing. Um, there was a office at Women's College where they'd get you a job, and you could do it as a student. You could come back as an alumna, and I mean, how great would that be to have that? So.
Also, trigger warning, she gets aggressive in this one as well. There's more, more threats of violence. Just a heads up on this. If you haven't caught up with me yet, again, she does not take shit from people at all. So, Monday 7th, 1943, Thursday night. My dearest darling, sure was glad to get your sweet letter this afternoon. I believe I would have died if there had been a letter from you in my mailbox. On second thought, darling, when I have all my pretty clothes, I don't want to behave too well. I certainly won't hit you over the head and make you leave me alone. I can hardly wait to be bothered, if you call it that. Sweetheart, if you think I should tell Trudy, which at this time is Lloyd's younger sister, where we're going on our honeymoon, I will. But so help me, if she tells everybody, I'll slap her ears down. I just had my senior interview with the Director of Public Relations. He is in charge of getting all the graduates a job immediately. He asked me a lot of questions and then told me that he had a job for me beginning immediately after our graduation. But I told him I had a little unfinished business that I would like to have settled June 10, and then I would be able to go to work. Darling, I told him that I didn't want to work next winter. So he told me to just write him when I got ready to go to work, and he would find me a job. You don't want me to have a career, don't you? Then I wouldn't have to ask you for any money, and I could be extravagant on my own money. Just think, darling, 5 more weeks from right this minute, we'll have been married for 2 whole hours. Gosh, I'm excited. Lloyd, have you decided definitely what you're going to wear at the wedding? Daddy Daddy was up here this morning, and he asked me to find out so he would know what to buy. Please tell me in your next letter so I can tell him. You know they can't wait until the last minute to buy their clothes. They'll probably have to order them or have them made. Darn it, I wanted to ask you something and I can't think what it was. I'm so absent-minded. Sweetheart, I want to see you so very much. How in the world can I stand being away from you for 5 more weeks? I love you, my darling, so very much. Night, Sarah. Again, she asks him lots of questions, and he does not like to answer her questions. Again,
Yeah,
and
I personally, I mean, the guy is building ships all day. I'm actually weirdly team Lloyd. 'Cause I'm not going to write every damn day.
and he worked 5 days, like 5 or 6 days a week. I mean, of course, this was
Yeah.
wartime. They got breaks and things, but again, yeah, she's a college kid with a lot more free time on her hand. He's a working person, and it's like if you send a text message and you want that right away, and someone doesn't text you back quite as often because they're actually busy doing a real job. That's what she does with these letters, and she writes these letters constantly. She's like, you didn't reply to me. It's been all of 24 hours, and I've not heard from you. What are you doing?
That may be true, y'all, but there are those girls across the hall from his apartment in Newport News, and I think it's made her a little bit insecure. So I will be on, I will be
That's
on her.
that's on a side note. We didn't get into it, but at some point, Lloyd mentions there were females across the hall that he had hung out with. Um,
And they always have some kind of comment about her or the relationship, and I think that he shouldn't have said that because it made her insecure.
Right, she says, I still think she distrusts blondes from that comment. So
Even though she went blonde, she was
She got a
blonde and
perm.
dyed her and then didn't she dye her hair and that didn't go well?
yeah, she
See,
got a perm.
doesn't everyone want to just come up and read these letters?
Again,
So-
this is like I mentioned in the beginning, but it is when I was so excited to get these letters because at some point it was like a soap opera, and I had to take breaks because you would literally start read a letter one day, and then drama would unfold. You're like, what the fuck did he do? Like, why is Lloyd so? What's he doing? And then you open the next letter, you hope you get some answers, and sometimes you get answers, sometimes you're trying to piece it together. So every day was like a new unfolding of what her life was like at the college, what was going on in the world, what she was doing with her parents. Because obviously at times she loves her parents, but also she was a teenager who was upset at her dad because her dad says no, you can't go to Newport News. But then she loved it. She would spend her mom's money to go buy dresses and shoes, and how excited she was for the marriage. So very again, the 40s, but again, still a very typical teenager, early 20s, living her life in college. But reading the letters, again, because she wrote every day for the most part, it very much unfolded like a soap opera that you would just, every day would be some new drama, adventure thing in her life that she was doing through.
So as you see, we got this off of Ancestry.com. They did get married, and the beginning is the justice of the peace. Thank God we point out that she's white because that's important. I guess you had a different card if that was pre-printed. So they did get married on June 10th, 1943, and to what I could figure out on Ancestry, they stayed married and moved back to Burlington.
And to Candace, your question, I think she wanted to get married because, again, we have no concrete definitive fact on this. However, I would just assume that at this time, in her early 20s, that religiously she probably had not had sex. And I'm going to assume that there's a lot of desire for both her to get married, to go forward with that. And so, because she at some of, and same way, they kiss, they hang out, but they keep separate rooms when he's with her on Newport News. And there's a lot of cuddling and things, but they've definitely didn't cross that barrier. So there was probably a lot of urgency that she wanted to get married, and she would have married him in 41. And as Bethany mentioned, she sticks true to her promise to her mother to graduate. But day one, she's like, I would quit the school right now and go live with you in Newport News if I could, because I want to be with you so badly. So again, this is this whole reference. I'm as the archivist in us, we try to make some inferences as to the time period, what was life was like in those places. Again, we're in the South here in 1941. Again, we're making assumptions, but that would be my thought is young age and the time period of what they were living in was probably saving herself for marriage.
Yes, and Lloyd knew what he was getting into. So, and one other letter I cut for time, which is ironic because we've just been rambling about all the letters we haven't read. She was driving her mom and her aunt, I think, around Graham, and some guy hit her car, and he did try to do he tried to drive away. Oh no! So she turned the car around and chased him. So anyway, yeah. So we have this idea that I don't know, 1940s. I just love reading stuff like this because
there was also, I know we kind of mentioned it, but there was the theme too that Lloyd drank too much, and she got on him a lot about his drinking. And she really disliked that he would sometimes be super drunk when they hung out together, and so he would promise to not drink as much. And then she would also, at some point, she would mention Lucky Strike cigarettes, so she would smoke. And some days she's like, I smoked all day long. So then she would try to quit, and she would encourage Lloyd to quit because she's like, you're sick all the time. Maybe if you didn't smoke cigarettes, you wouldn't be so sick. Correlation. And so she would rag him about him smoking. I guess his drinking probably habits, whether they got better or not, but he would be like, I'm not drinking as much, though she would also like to drink too. So there's a lot of double standards on some stuff, but
she didn't have sex with the soldier, so she had that for her.
So as we conclude this, where can they go for more letters?
Bethany, the next slide.
Oh, yeah, sorry, next slide. Yes, I knew I had one more. So yes, if you go on to the SCUA website archives interface, here's our lovely finding aid, and at the bottom Sean links to a document he wrote which summarizes all the letters. So yeah, so they're up here. I even know where they are. Come on by if you'd like to learn more about Sarah.
Like I said, she was again very much so, but she loved the man, and you heard no question about her love. Just interesting to when you want to get a sense of what the 40s were like. And again, the great part is that she was a student here on campus. And a lot of things that she references like Rat Day, which we may have heard some people talk about, where that was when the sophomores got to boss around the freshmen that one day. So she does mention that in some of her letters. So we got some cool documentations about events that we know of that happened. Of course, we were talking yesterday So, during World War II, they were worried about bombs coming from Japan to California, so they moved the Rose Bowl to the East Coast, and Duke gets the distinction of hosting the Rose Bowl in 1942. And she writes about it, having gone there with her dad. She's like, "Oh, I went to the Rose Bowl and with my dad," and I think she mentioned the teams. She talks about going to Chapel Hill Duke basketball games, and she's a Carolina girl, so.
Well, I have to say that these letters have revealed Sean as SCUA's true romantic, and just to whet Charles' appetite for the next one, we've just gotten a bunch of Civil War letters from a Union soldier who has written quite a bit, and Sean is going through that now. So that will probably
spoiler. There's talk about alcohol.
Our next letters from SCUA. So thank y'all so much for coming.
Yes, thank you. We appreciate the chance to share what gets us all excited up here in SCUA. So, yes, the Rose Bowl next to the city. Yes.